Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the next part, which is about for loops, and this is also going to use conditionals and functions. So the first one here, we start off with x equal to 1200, and then we're doing a for loop through the range 110. So make sure you understand what's in these ranges. This particular range, when you have two arguments like this in the range, it starts at the first one, and then it just goes up one by one by one, and it stops right before the second argument. So it never gets to 10, it stops right before 10. All right, so that's going to be important for all of these actually. Like the second one here, it starts at 2 and then it stops right before x, which is a little bit mysterious. X is a variable. If there's only one argument in it, like this one, the range is going to be, it's going to start as 0 and then it's going to stop right before the number. So this will be 0, 1, 2. This one will also be 0, 1, 2. Okay, so back to this question. Then we are checking if remainder of x divided by n is 0. So basically this is checking if x is divisible by n. Okay, so we're going through all these numbers. We check if x is evenly divisible by that number. And if it is, then we replace x with x divided by n, and this is the integer part of the long division result. And then we're printing out the new value of x. All right, so let's go through this like Python. Okay, so x starts off as 1200, and the first time this loop runs, n is going to be 1, the first value in this range here. So then we're checking if 1200 is divisible by 1, and it is. So then we are replacing x with x divided by 1. Okay, which is just 1200 again. So we don't actually see anything really happen, but that does get printed out. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't type it as actual code. I need to be putting these in comments. Okay, so 1200 is the first thing that's going to be printed. And so down here, I'm going to put 1200. Okay, so the next time, then we come back up to the top of the loop, and n now becomes 2, which is the next value in the range. Okay, then we're checking if 1200 is divisible by 2, and it is. Okay, so then since it is, we're going to do this code here. X is going to become 1200 divided by 2, which is 600, and then that is going to be printed out. All right, so 600 will be printed. And then we're going to come back up to the top of the loop, and it's now going to become 3. All right. So then we're going to check if 600 is divisible by 3. Okay, and it is. So then we're going to be doing, x is going to be assigned to be 600 divided by 3, which is 200. All right, and then we're going to print out that new value, which is 200. Okay, I think maybe I should have been making notes about like what the value of n is up here. Maybe I should have done it like this. So we were on 3, right? And then, okay, I'll leave that one like it is. Okay, so then we're gonna come back up to the top, and n is now gonna become 4. All right, and then we're gonna check if the current value of x, which is 200, is divisible by 4, and it is. So x is then gonna become current value 200 divided by 4, which is gonna be 50. And then we're gonna be printing that out. Okay, so we're printing 50. All right, back up to the top, n is now going to become 5. We're checking if current value of x, 50, is divisible by 5, and it is. So we're doing x is 50, current value of x divided by 5. Okay, and then we're printing that out, which is going to be 10. All right. So we got through the if statement a whole bunch, but then I think now we're going to not be passing the if condition for a little bit. So the next value is going to be 6 for n, and 10 is not divisible by 6. So we're not going to do these next two lines when n is 6. Then we're going to get 7 for n, and 10 is not divisible by 7, so we're not going to do these lines. We're going to get 8 for n, we're going to get 9 for n, and then not until we get 10 for n do we pass this condition here. So when n is 10, we're going to check if x is divisible by 10. Current value of x is 10, so that is going to be true. All right, and then so since it's true, we're going to assign x to be current value of x divide by 10, that's going to be 1, and then we're going to print that, and that is going to be the next thing down here. Then we're going to come back to the top. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing this wrong, aren't I? We don't go to 10 because it's a range that only goes to 9. Oopsie. Gotta check our range carefully. Wow, I'm an idiot. Okay, so actually 10 will be the last one that prints, right? So when we're on 9 for the value of n, 10 is not divisible by 9, and then that'll be the very last value because this range, when the second argument is 10, that means it stops right before 10. Okay, so we'll stop right here. And let's make sure it prints out correctly. Yep, and there we go. Okay, next problem. Okay, so for this problem, we do have a function, f of x. So let's see, what does this function do? So we have one argument, x, that's going to be passed to us. And then we're doing a for loop from 2, so starting at 2 and then stopping right before x, okay? And then for every value in that range, from 2 up to x minus 1, we are checking if x is divisible by that value of y, okay? So like we're checking, is x divisible by 2? Is x divisible by 3? Is x divisible by 4? And if it is divisible by those, any of those, then we're going to return false. Okay. So if our x value is divisible by 2, we return false, and then that's going to stop the loop. So like at that point, you've exited the function. You're not doing anything else that's in here. If it's not divisible by 2, then we'll keep going and go to the next value in the range, check if x is divisible by 3, and if it is, we'll return false. You just keep going like that. So the only way you can actually get down to this return true line and execute this line is if this if condition was false every single time and we never carried out this return false part, okay? So in that case, if we never found anything from 2 to x minus 1 that x was divisible by, then we never got to return false. And so at the end, we would return true. So this is actually checking for prime numbers. This is a prime number checking algorithm. But let's go through it and show you guys how it works. So the first time we're going to call this with 10. So I'm going to make some notes up here of what it looks like when x is 10. Okay. So for y in range 2 to 9 is what's going to happen. Y will go, let me do this in notes. So y will go from 2 to 9. Those are the values that it's going to range over. Okay. So then we're checking, is 10 divisible by 2 for the very first value of y. So let's start off with the first value of y, which is 2. And then we're checking, is 10 divisible by 2? And yes, actually it is, so we are going to return false. Okay, so at that point, we're done with this function. We don't have to think about anything else that it does. We've returned. It's like a little escape hatch from the function, and that's just what gets printed out because that's what was returned. Okay, now let's try it again for x equals 13 and see it'll happen a little bit differently because 13 is prime. Okay, so x is going to be 13. All right, and then y is going to start off as 2, and we're checking, is 13 divisible by 2? It's not. So we're skipping this line, we're not doing this line, okay? And we're just come back up here and look at the next value for y, which is 3, and we're checking, is 13 divisible by 3? No. And so we're coming back up here, we're checking, we're getting the next value for y, which is 4. We're checking, is 13 divisible by 4? No. So we're still not doing this line. Okay, we come back up here and we're just going through every one of these numbers, and then we're stopping at, well, where are we stopping at? The second argument in the range, we stop at the number before that, which is 12, and 13 is not divisible by any of these numbers. So at that point, we never do this return false line, and the loop is over. Okay, this loop right here is over. And so at that point, then we just return true. Okay, so this will be true. All right, I'm gonna actually erase these notes because I don't want to get mixed up about what I was doing there. Okay, if you were to try this on some other numbers, you could see the same thing will happen. Like if I put a prime number there, it'll be true. If I put a prime number here, it'll be true. If I put numbers that are not prime, like 8 and 10, it'll be false. So that's the idea of this code here. Okay, so the next one, we have loop in loop. It's really simple. just one print statement inside of there, but just want to make sure you guys know how to do loop in loop. So the two ranges are exactly the same. It's range 3, so it's going to start at 0 and then go to 1 before 3. So when there's only one argument in the range, the number starts at 0 and goes up to 1 before that number that's in there. So this will be going through 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. And so x is going to take on the values 0, 1, 2. Y is also going to take on the values 0, 1, 2. We're just going to make sure that you know like kind of what order it happens in. So the first thing that's going to happen is x is assigned the value 0. Okay, oops. And then inside of there, y is assigned the value 0 as well. And then that's the first thing that prints out, okay, is 0, 0. So 0, 0. All right. Actually, let me do this on the line down here so you guys don't get confused. About what it's going to look like, because each of these is going to go on their own line. Okay, and then what's going to happen is, well, we're not done with this loop yet. So we can't come back up and say that we're going to go to the next value of x until we're done doing everything that was inside of that first loop. So you have to completely finish with this code here before you can go to the next value of the outer loop. Okay, so then we're going to go to y being 1, and then we're going to print again. All right, so it's just going to print, first it prints x and then y, so it's going to be 0, 1. Okay, and then we're still not done with this y loop. Okay, so then y is going to become 2. All right, so now we're going to print xy is going to be 0, 2. All right, and now finally we are done with this inner loop, and we're finally ready for Python to come back and go to the next value of x. Okay, so then x is going to become 1, and then y again starts over at 0. Okay, so it's not like, at this point it's like we've never seen this loop before, we're doing it again for the first time. Just like how in every loop, you're always like redoing the code, you're rerunning it again as if it had never happened. Okay, it's a little weird because like y already had a value, but we're still starting over again with the first value of y in this range here. All right, so now we have x being 1 and y is going to be 0, and then we have to go to the next value of y, which is going to be 1. So now we'll have 1, 1, and then y is going to become 2. So this will be 1, 2. And then finally we go to the next value of x. Okay, and then we're coming and resetting y down to 0. Okay, so this is going to be, for the last 3 lines, it's going to be 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2. All right. Okay, so that is that one. And let's make sure. Yep. Okay. So the last one for the for loops here is we are going through strings. So we are going through all of the characters in Riverhawks. X is going to become each character one by one. The first time the loop runs, X is R. The next time the loop runs, X is I. The next time it runs, it's V, and so on. And then what we're doing with each value of X is we're checking if that character is in the string Susquehanna. If it is in that string, then we're going to print the uppercase version of X. And if it's not in that string, then we're going to just print the regular version of X. And then since these print commands only print out one character at a time, each of these characters is going to print on its own line. Okay, so things that print are going to look like this. So first X will be R. And then we check, is R in Susquehanna? It is not, so we're going to do this line, the print X. So we're printing R. Okay, next X is going to become I. Is I in Susquehanna? No. So we're just printing the regular version of I. Okay, next next X is going to become V. Is V in Susquehanna? No. So we're just going to print, we can come down to the else part here and print the regular version of V. Okay. Next X is going to become E. Is E in Susquehanna? Actually, yes, it is. So we're going to do the if code here. We're going to print the uppercase version, E. Okay, next X is going to become R. And again, R is not in Susquehanna, so we print the regular version. Next X is going to become space. Is space in Susquehanna? It's not, so we print regular version of X, space. Next X is going to become H. Is H in Susquehanna? Yes, it is. So we're going to do this code, print the uppercase version. Okay. Next, X is going to become A. That is in Susquehanna, So we're going to print the uppercase version A. Next, X is going to become W. It's not in Susquehanna. Next, X is become K, not in Susquehanna. And then finally, X becomes S, which is in Susquehanna right here. So we'll print the uppercase version like this. All right, so that is what we'll print. There it is. Okay, and that is it for this part.